Dianna, thank you for joining us. I was made angry on behalf of Shador Sanders that the anonymous quotes have begun like they do every year on these quarterbacks. If I give you the shocking prediction of Jackson Dart goes ahead of Shedeur Sanders, what are the percentages of chance you think that is?
Yeah, I think they're high. I think there's an 80% chance that happens. And look, those comments went out there, and it's part of the draft process. It happens every year. There's always a few players there that get snagged, and I'm sure you guys have had conversations about whether or not it's fair. There's anonymous stuff flying around, and look, I do it as well. I put out a column yesterday, basically all the intel I could possibly collect over the last 3 weeks as of yesterday, it was draft eve. Most of that info still stands today. But look, sometimes you just need to sort of get through the fat of the conversation and get to what people really believe and feel about these quarterbacks, specifically just knowing it is a weak class. Unfortunately, I believe some of this is really unfair. And I think it makes it really hard for Shedeur here, who at one point, I can tell you, he was the number one quarterback for the New York Giants. They had him graded number one. And that changed over the last few months, not because of the anonymous quotes, because of their own research, their own conversations that they had internally about whether or not he's a good fit. But yeah, it is that time of year where things are flying around. The quote that I had, that was my favorite, was essentially about all of this as a whole, which is, for fans specifically, just when you think that your team is smart, that you think that your team knows exactly what they need, you can never rule out that there are dumbass teams out there. Whether you believe it or not, they're just there. And owners have a big say on tonight's decision making.
Put it on the poll, Juju. Are there dumbass teams out there at Le Batard Show? I would say that we have some dumbass around here. We are at the draft, sort of, tonight in Tennessee, which isn't at the draft. I've seen these crazy people in Green Bay outdoors doing shows about transactions on ESPN. I've seen Mike Greenberg try to order an almond milk latte in Green Bay and have everyone laugh at him. Yeah. The thing that we're doing tonight is going to be Billy Gill and Walter Hawkins tonight at the draft in Tennessee, where it'll be Cam Ward, right? You're reporting that 2 through 4, they've all received offers. Browns, Giants, Patriots, 2 through 4. Teams are interested in moving up to a specific player. But number 1's decided, correct?
Yeah, they're not taking calls anymore. They made a decision as an organization pretty much weeks ago, but officially we'll just say this past week that they're going to go quarterback here. So Cam Ward has been graded as the number 1 quarterback for a lot of different teams outside of Tennessee as well. Although I will tell you, I did speak to one head coach who has Tyler Shuck out of Louisville ranked as the number 1 quarterback above Cam Ward.
Wow. Two crystal ball guys.
This was the same head coach who told me last year that Jaden Daniels was better than Caleb Williams, that they had him graded above. Look, I remember him telling me that last year and understanding why he was saying that. But if you remember, the push for Caleb being number 1 overall, it was absurd how many people were in on that and not saying anything else, not pointing to any other quarterback. So look, to this coach's defense, he was right on that for now. But yeah, I do think that's interesting that most teams do have Cam Ward. But Dan, to me, the story isn't 1, who cares? We kind of know it. It's who's 2, right? Because it's been all over the place as we're trying to figure out what the New York Giants are going to be doing. We know they're in at quarterback. What are they going to do at 3? At this point, I'm sensing that they're just going best player available, which I assume it to be Abdul Carter when they're on the clock.
Oh, I'm Mike Greenberg, and I'm in Wisconsin around all these hillbillies. They've never heard of alternative milks before. Ooh.
It is known for their dairy.
Disrespecting the local culture.
I do think that you offend Green Bay if you go cheese that's not dairy. Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Do you offend Green Bay if you go cheese that's not dairy?
So, Dianna, the Giants, Cleveland, Saints, and Steelers are the 4 teams that could draft a quarterback. Is there a mystery 5th team that you think could draft a quarterback in the first round?
No, I don't believe so. And even if there was a team that, let's just say, wanted to do it, I don't think this is the class for it, just because it is a weak quarterback class as a whole, and that's pretty much known.
So where did Dart and Sanders land?
I think Jackson Dart, if the New York Giants are able to either move up to go get him, or maybe perhaps they can just sit there in the second round and get him. I think there's enough smoke now in terms of who the Giants want as Jackson Dart being the guy. I do think Tyler Shuck is going to go in the top 40 here. I'm not sure which team is going to go with him. I just have heard enough from different coaches about how NFL ready he is. Yes, he's older, so I know
he's 26.
Yes, I know. I can't believe we're the same age. It's wild to think that that's the situation there, but that's not bad, because I've had this convo too with a lot of different teams of, well, what is the big deal that he's 26 years old? If he can play, you don't need to worry about that right now, especially if you're a team that's looking to win now. And there's coaches out there that like older quarterbacks, as we've seen over the years. So I just want to see which team it is that's gonna be in on him. The Shedeur Sanders.
He's past his prime as soon as his rookie contract is over.
Yeah, possibly, but Bo Nix is pretty old, and he had a good season. I think we could all agree Denver probably nailed that, and he's going to continue. Look, he's not 26, but look, it is funny to think like he could be the oldest quarterback in the quarterback room if he's taken and he's the rookie, depending on where he goes. But look, the overarching story over the quarterbacks, forget the rookies, it's Kirk Cousins. I'm watching that. I want to see if this happens, if they're going to trade him. Because look, I've heard a couple different versions of what Atlanta wants to do here. They don't want to take on his salary, but they're willing to give a little because they know they probably got to move him. Kirk has to remember he has a no trade clause. So if a team is interested in trading with Atlanta, Kirk is going to want to get involved here. So I do think if something happens, it's going to be later in the weekend. But that's definitely in play here. You've got the Cleveland Browns, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and perhaps the Minnesota Vikings poking around on that. So that's something I'm going to be watching over the next few days.
Dianna, is Aaron Rodgers going to pull the move where he steals all the headlines today?
It's a good question. I haven't thought about it. You're probably right. Yeah, so I can just tell you the Pittsburgh Steelers haven't heard from him. So they don't really know what he's doing. They're just hoping that Aaron takes the time he needs, because it's obvious that he's got some personal stuff he's got to deal with. He shared that in his interview with Pat McAfee. So I think the Steelers are willing to give him that space. So I mean, unless that personal stuff, whatever he's going through, was addressed and fixed, and he feels ready. But yeah, I don't see it happening. It's Aaron Rodgers, and he does have a way of making news.
I think the story of the night could end up being Shador Sanders if he tumbles and keeps tumbling, partly because the fireworks from Deion Sanders are guaranteed. Where do you see Sanders going, Shador?
I don't know. I really don't know at this point, because I don't see a team. I haven't spoken to a team who has Shedeur Sanders as their top quarterback right now headed into tonight.
You rule him out for 15, though, for Pittsburgh, if he's still there?
I think Pittsburgh is trying to move out, but let's say that they can't. I don't know if he's their guy. I don't feel comfortable right now saying that he's their number one quarterback on their board and that they're going to grab him at that spot. They could do it, but I think there may be other quarterbacks that Pittsburgh's interested in.
Chances he is not a first-round draft
pick.
Greg,
you're just mining for your own mock draft here.
So
you're not
clear.
just trying to collect information to form your own
Wait, Greg
picks.
does a mock draft?
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
he's
it's a
got
big deal.
9 exactos last year. Who's your number 2 pick today? Like, what do you have 1, 2, 3? Because it's clear that you're just totally delving into your own narcissism with your questions.
Like many mock drafts, my 1, 2, 3 are Ward Hunter and Abdul Carter. My mock draft was published 3 days ago, and I don't change it. So I am not doing this related to my mock draft. I'm doing this out of curiosity and because I respect Diana's opinion. I'm wondering what the chances you think are that Shador Sanders is going to not be a first-round pick tonight.
Yeah, I think it's a bold statement, but I would not be surprised if he falls to the second round. That would not surprise me.
Nate Tice has said Shedeur is more of a day 2 guy, a round 2 at best guy.
Yeah, that's fair. Look, this is one of these drafts where I feel like we can say two things of this and be like, yeah, that would make sense. I could see a team possibly grabbing him at the bottom of the first. I don't see him going in the top 10. No. But I could also see him falling there. It's somewhere at the top of the second round, for a team looking to add for sure.